Welcome, my friends, to this new edition of More Bad News, brought to you, as always, by Camel Cigarettes. Take the Camel's Challenge, smoke Camels for 30 days, and see for yourself what a difference Camels can make in your life. Well, my friends, the struggle is real. Um, Last 2 weeks have been extremely difficult. Uh, One of the things that we personally experience here is that because the forests of the earth are burning. Uh, this is particularly true in Canada. Every time it's nice outside, and we would like to go for a ride or a run or a walk or or get into the woods. The air is unbreathable. So, when this all started, when my moment of fame came, I was wearing a helmet, and I had just returned from some asteroid or whatever in the galaxy, and I have been trying to contact those people to beam me off of here, this planet, because I'm stuck now on this dying planet. I said last week, where I'm going to hell in a handbasket, and I'm not quite sure how long the handbasket is going to last. And we got out yesterday, but uh, it was difficult. Uh, there, Before we knew whether we could get out, uh, uh, we were feeling a little bit depressed and anxiety and anxious. Once we got on the bikes and went out onto the trail and were riding along for a couple of hours, everything disappeared. Then we felt better. Getting out of the house helped. To be trapped in this house while the air around us is unbreathable. And by the way, I have a respirator I use sometimes. Occasionally, I need to go out. The animals, unfortunately, have no choice but to breathe this air. So that was one thing we had to deal with. And then the news has just been horrific. Um, the Science magazine reported that the bee population was down. This was last year. The commercial bee uh, hives, they lost 62% of their hives. And that's after the year before they had lost 50 plus percent of their hives. Yeah, you can't just continue to lose over half of your commercial hives. It's a very serious situation. And to bring home the seriousness of it, there was another report, this time from Bridge Magazine, which is a really good source for Michigan history news. The whitefish population in the Great Lakes, which was just enormous, abundant population that fed millennia of people and birds and other species, um, uh, is now last year, because it was so diminished, they only allowed for 170,000 pounds of whitefish to be harvested from the lake. This year, they're allowing 10,000 pounds because it now looks like we're at the very end. Why they allow 10,000 pounds? Because even if it's the last fish, we're going to eat it, right? I mean, I mean, we're hungry. By the way, I'm in the basement because I couldn't get the technology to work upstairs. There's some little thing about the program needed adjusting, and I more than I could do. And I realized that that's another thing that might fail. The technology could not fail for everybody, but it could fail for me. I could be incapable of producing these shows. So that's another way that I could. There's any number of ways that I could disappear from this channel. It's like carpe diem. Enjoy me while you have me, because I'm not going to last. That much I can guarantee. So the whitefish are really, now it's at the end. You're not going to get any more whitefish. The bees are coming to the end, and they fertilize everything else. Um, and um, and then there's Gaza, which yeah, it just it is so difficult and painful to deal with the tragedy. Rabbi Lewin from Jacksonville Jewish Community Center said last week on Shabbos in his sermon that the fate of the Jewish people is now inextricably tied to the fate of Gaza. And I don't know whether he understood the implications of what he was saying, but I fully agree. The fate of the Jewish people is now going to be rest on the fate of Gaza. If we allow this genocide to continue on, uh, I mean, I have a tendency to feel like it's too late already. Once you and the Haaretz um, posted an article by David Grossman, one of the most famous modern Israeli authors. I'm reading just now a book of his called To Another Land. The Hebrew title is Woman Trying to Escape the News. And the story is about a woman whose son is fighting in Lebanon, and she does not want the knock on the door to tell her that her son is dead. So she takes a backpack, grabs her lover, her ex-lover, the one who was the father of this boy, I think, and off they go in order to be away from any phones, to be untraceable, so they wouldn't be able to find her, so they wouldn't be able to communicate the news that her son had died. And somehow that uh, will keep him alive a little bit longer. It feels like that's where we are right now. We're running to outrun the bad news. We're trying to escape the bad news, but there's no place to run to. There's no place to go. So I wrote something. I will endeavor to share. I wrote it in February, and I hesitated to say anything, especially here, because the last time I said something, YouTube shut me down for violating community standards because what I said was a violation of the YouTube community standards, and it was about genocide. So um, uh, I'm going to read a little bit of this and give you a sense of what it is that I've been thinking. It's entitled If I Were a Palestinian, and if I were a Palestinian, I would argue that what the Israelis are doing, not only in Gaza, but in the territories as well, constitutes crimes against humanity and genocide against the Palestinians and other groups. If I were a Palestinian, I would point out that while synagogues around the world are praying for the welfare of the hostages in the state of Israel and the IDF, none include a prayer for the welfare of the innocent Palestinians who are suffering at the hands of the Israelis. If I were a Palestinian, I would point out that the Israelis and Jews in general take no responsibility for the suffering of the Palestinians, blaming all their suffering on Hamas. I should say this has changed a little bit. We're now seeing some reaction from American Jews and Israelis. I mean, some people have always. This is unfair. It's, people have raised this issue, but certainly not enough. If I were a Palestinian, I would point out that the Jewish community is completely supportive of the Netanyahu government, the most extreme government in Israel's history, a government that can only be described as Kahanist. Once again, there are some exceptions to this, but it's not enough to make a difference. If I were a Palestinian, I would argue that the settlers in the territories, with the IDF aid, are carrying out a campaign of terror against innocent Palestinians, and I would call the attacks on Palestinian villages pogroms and their murder of Palestinians lynchings. If I were a Palestinian, I would point out that most Israelis support the current American government. If I were a Palestinian, I would say that the Jews are using the Holocaust to justify their aggression and label all their critics anti-Semites. But I'm not a Palestinian. I'm a Jew and a Zionist. This is one of the serious problems that we have with our, uh, we carry the badge. Um, and we are not innocent. We are all implicated. And it is that sense of both guilt and outrage that makes life now at this very end. I mean, and we are at the very end. Uh, Things are going to get worse, uh, but God help us. At any rate, uh, if the technology holds out for me, and if I'm still around next week, I'll be back with more bad news. And see you then.